Backlog groups provide a flexible way to group your backlog along any dimension that the organization finds useful. The most common usage of backlog groups is to represent components of your system. Here, as we look at data for this call center project, we can see a set of backlog groups that have been created for it. We might describe that system as having the core functionality of taking and creating and managing orders. That's what our call center reps do. There's also some major functionality around customer management, supported by reporting, administration, and perhaps even integrations to other related systems like accounting or warehousing. We might even create a cross-cutting backlog group, such as usability, that allows us to group those stories that apply to multiple or all areas of the system. The backlog groups can be hierarchical. So as I expand the administration item, we can see child components for security and user administration. If we want to add new backlog groups, we do that right through the form. When I create a new backlog group, I can assign a parent or leave it blank to represent a root level group. Or, after I've created that, I can use the drag and drop to just drag this up to an existing group to assign that as a child. Down below on the page is a listing of the backlog. Here I can see all of the backlog items that are open within this project scope, including those that have already been assigned to items. So if I need to make changes, I can just use a simple drag and drop here to reassign that item from one group to another. I can also filter my list fairly easily and just look at those items that have no backlog group assignment. Again, the drag and drop can be used for that assignment, or I can use a multi-select and select from any of the stories, defects, even test sets to assign them to a backlog group all at once. So as I make those assignments, I can see my grouping grow, see the numbers for my estimate increase over the course of time. Lower level groupings roll up into higher level groupings. And so I can always see and keep track of the areas of my system that we're working on. Now, backlog groups can be used as filters in various groups. We saw how I used the none down at the bottom. But as I'm looking at my backlog and doing assignment, perhaps release planning, sprint planning, I can use my backlog groups as a filter within that section as well. So here, if I choose to do planning around just a particular component of the system, I can easily narrow my view and just see those items. Similarly, I can use backlog grouping as a means to filter reports. And so again, if I wanted to just see a particular backlog group, be it a lower level or a higher level, I can apply that backlog group filter and see the resulting burn down in this case for just this one selected backlog group. So how does, say, a backlog group differ from a portfolio item? Our portfolio tree is a way to group backlog. Generally, this is a more strategic way to start high and break the given initiative or feature down into smaller components. Generally, we're going to work on a portfolio item, fully deliver that, and be done with it and move on to the next thing. So the life of a portfolio item will tend to be a release in the case of a feature, or perhaps multiple releases in the case of initiative. But in those cases, we're really just going to work through it, be done with that set of work, and then move on to the next thing. Our backlog groups, on the other hand, will tend to be longer lived, as these, as we're using them for components, would generally represent areas of the system will continue to exist over the course of time. So as we work through additional initiatives and additional features, we'll continue to add to the existing backlog groups that we have, and on occasion, we'll expand this to have more as we do particularly new features that fall outside of the current range. So let's take an example. Perhaps we have a new initiative where we're going to internationalize our call center product here. That one high-level portfolio item might be broken down into multiple features, and each one of those may have impacts across the different backlog groups that we have. So, for example, we may have impacts on administration to be able to deal with multiple currencies. We may have impacts on our reporting to be able to show those currencies. We may have impacts on our order management area to be able to take orders in different currencies. So a given portfolio item might have stories that are spread across various backlog groups that are out there. But as we talk about that end system as a whole, we're generally going to be talking about it in terms of the components that we specify through the backlog groups.